Hello everybody, it's Obey the Papaya here. We're back at it again with another quick guide for mid lane characters. Today, it is the day, my favorite, my number one, my Countess. So we're going to throw out the Countess guide today. So there's a quick warning. This is your last chance before becoming a Countess simp. I'm not saying I'd bark for Countess, but it's just your last warning, all right? All right. So we're gonna start off with the builds. These are just the crests. I kind of give an explanation of what crests I prefer to have on Countess and kind of like what they'd be good for, right? So we got the time flux, which gives solid burst, reposition, extra combo, penetration. The stats are so good on time flux. There is a caveat though, which it is hard to use. It's a difficult crest to use. And we'll go further more into it. Soul Bear, which is the next crest I would say. These are technically I have them ordered in what I would look into preferring, and this is for a pub stomp. This is trying to win. So Soul Bear, it's still a solid crest, but the AOE heal got hit really hard back in I think like 4 patches ago. So it's still solid. It gives you sustain. It gives you a good shield. It gives you movement speed, so it's good for chase potential. It is a very good crest still. Next crest is the obelisk crest. So it's a fun trolley item. It's really good against squishy teams. It throws out a ton of damage. I prefer it more on jungle than I prefer it as a mid laner. And it is really good damage. It's just that it gives you the pen, it gives you the magic power, but everything else is just kind of better, in my opinion, of course. And then you got Tempest, which is good for comps against enemy Olins. It gives you HP, it gives you healing, it gives you cooldown. So overall, it's a solid crest. And it's kind of on the side. This is where I'd like bias towards the tank Countess build, or you think you're gonna be in a fight that you're gonna have to sit in for a while. You might be able to get a good amount of reward through it. So the main build. So this is what I would call the overall meta killer. This is going to be the build that you should use majority of the time, especially this was technically done before the current patch or the patch coming out version 13.3, which is the buff to Megacosm and Caustica. This is probably going to be it. Like I would say at this point, this is probably going to be the build. You still can go combustion. We'll get through it. But this is the build. So this is you're gonna prio Mega Cosm and Time Warp. You can kind of decide which one you need. If you kind of need more, if you feel like you're really getting poked out, you can prioritize Time Warp. That way you can get some mana regen, cooldown, and be able to kind of farm more. Mega Cosm, if you're really just poking the heck out of them, you just want to keep every time you have your A-second CD, you want to go in, do your 2 skills, walk out. If they're very passive, I'd go into the Mega Cosm. If they're very aggressive and you're getting ganked and pressured a lot, then you can look into going the Time Warp first. If you are dominating, you can debate on Wraith Leggings for squish/maneuverability or Crown for damage output. If you are having to push lane constantly for farm or doing lots of rotations, you can do Caustica third. I usually go up to Caustica third, and then from that point on, it's dependent if I go Wraith Leggings or if I go World Breaker. But it kind of depends. If you think that you're just absolutely dominating, then you can go Wraith Leggings and just make sure you're destroying that Fae in mid lane. Especially on the type of if you have a squishy mid laner, you can really punish people by going Wraith Leggings third item. But the Caustica, just having the penetration, having literally constant mana, is very strong, and it scales really well with Time Warp's mana regen. And when you build this stuff, I like to build Mega Custom and I like to go for Potent Staff. So I save up to 1200 gold. So I want instant damage. Dusk Stave isn't that big for me. Time Warp, I try to prioritize. It depends. If I need to, I also try to go Potent Staff. But if I feel like I'm getting punished, then I might actually start with the 2 mana build, the 2 mana crystals into the mana regen / ability haste item. I forgot what that one is called. That way I'm able to actually have more sustain in lane. And then, same thing, Potent Staff, focus on Caustica. Then I try to go for the Magic Pen item first on Wraith Leggings, just because penetration at that point of the game is going to help. It helps in general. But, it's all about having gold efficiency when you purchase these items. The next build is the Burster build. This is like there's one person fed on your team. You just want to absolutely destroy them, right? Straight damage output. And it's a very solid build. It's only this is probably the build I would suggest in pub stomp / low elo. Because if you just murder someone, now they're gonna have a 4v5, and hopefully you can reset in time. And if you're running time warp, right, you can really punish that as well with having another E basically. So that's it. With time warp, your entire goal with time warp is to land a E RMB as quick as you can and reset your Q. If you have your time warp shadow still up, it will not reset your Q when you cast it back if time warp if time flux is has reset you. You will not get your Q back. Your entire goal in reality is to try and land a E. At least land another E, reset, and you have another E up. And that's the one thing I say about time flux is it is a higher skill / positioning thing where if you don't use it correctly, it can be wasted. While every other crest isn't really going to be wasted except for obelisk if you can't hit the basic attack because of CC or whatever. So time flux can easily be wasted. Hence why I bias it. That's why I call the time flux the high skill, the higher skill crest to use. It is very nice. It is insane if you can get that stuff, landing. But if you can't necessarily guarantee it, high level players, people are playing really far back, then you might want to go Soul Bear. Might want to go Obelisk. Might want to go Tempest. So then I do the same thing where I would prioritize. I try to go for the pen item first, but if I can't afford it, I go for the regular staff on combustion. And then the same thing with Wraith leggings. And then it kind of depends. Your third item, if you need spam, you go Caustica. Like if you're just dominating. If you just want straight raw burst damage, you're doing good managing your mana, you go for the Oblivion Crown. If you just want kind of a combination of both, you go Time Warp. So it's kind of based on your decision. But this is overall the build that I would say for just complete burst, complete damage, complete destruction. But yeah, due to tank CC meta, this is tough to use on Countess right now, right? Because you're not getting a lot of ability haste. You're only getting ability haste off of Time Warp. And I don't think Time Flux has that. I think that's Pen, yeah. So that's a one con of that. So skill leveling, I always max E first, then RMB, and then the Q. So I usually wait to level until first minion. I like to see how aggro my mid laner is against me. If they are aggro to where they are chasing, I look at my E. If they are poking but casually farming, I look into RMB. If I might have a hard time securing cannon, I will level up Q to secure that 80 gold because cannon is huge. And with Countess, you just want to farm. You want to farm until even when you're pressured. Just don't lose the XP lead. That's kind of it. And that's your entire goal. Because of course your RMB is going to give you heals, so it's good for like if they're not going to punish you too much and you just kind of want to go in and kind of RMB but sustain yourself and you want that nice AoE damage, it helps out a lot. It's also I believe the RMB is lower cooldown than the E. Yeah, it is. So 4 seconds off. So you are able to spam it more. That's how I focus on my skill leveling. So the passive, more kills or assists equals more lifesteal. So it's very important to look into roams early so you can get the stacks. It is a permanent. So 10 kills and assists totaled up can be 15% lifesteal for free. The Q ability, so since this does 4 times on minions and jungle minions, it's very good for securing cannons. This ability de-aggros, helps with going for tower dives with minions to do quick bursts. I'll discuss strategy later. So when you go into tower and you have minions with you, the Q will de-aggro tower as long as there's minions or something to take aggro in the tower. So it's very strong to where you're able to basically punish people under tower literally for free. And you can go through tower with the Q. All her abilities, all her abilities do damage through tower. The cooldown doesn't start until you go back to your shadow or the time runs out. That's actually big because it's a 12-second CD, but it's 12 seconds upon the 3 seconds technically. So it's not going to start the CD immediately when it's on use. It's going to start it when the shadow disappears. This can be used to dodge gadget Qs, rampage rocks when timed perfectly, teleporting to or back. So try not to run this with default cast. It makes it very easy for the enemy to know when you are interested in wanting to engage on them with this skill, like people like Bellica. So I've mentioned a lot that smart cast, insta cast, and quick cast. You at least want to go quick cast. Default cast, your character just gonna kind of like stand there like that, and you know that they're gonna attack. Even with a quick cast, if you hold it down, they're gonna kind of know that you're gonna look at and engage, which gives me like, oh, he's looking at engaging. Now I can prep my entire setup for when he engages. I can kind of just pressure them, melt them, do some damage, peel them off, prevent them from getting CS. You want to try to let the enemy know less about you, right? And for Bellica, who is a strong counter simply because of her Q, if she knows you're gonna do it, that's one of the easiest Qs for her to hit. So loving this only decreases CDs and increases damage. Mana is the same throughout the entire ability, no matter how you level it. So be warned, due to the skill Q system, if you are stunned, then you press Q while you're stunned to teleport, and you get hit by the stun, you may still have the skill in Q, so you will teleport back no matter what. So if I press Q but I got stunned, I might still use the Q without me touching Q again, teleporting back. So be prepared. Hopefully that the Q system gets adjusted and fixed. That's something to keep in mind, that you may still be in the fight that you did, or you might not be in the fight. So there's a lot of times where I try to dodge an ability, like, all right, well, I didn't dodge it. I want to go back in the fight, but instead it now teleports me back, and I E, and now I wasted a E, and now they punish me. Or I just don't get the kill, and I just walk back sad, upset, and blaming a meta. So the E ability, it's long range attack with pretty good height. It's a little bit more than it visually shows. I've had it when I go howitzer and I'm flying above it, and I'll just die sometimes, like not all the way on top, but a good distance, and this damage does go through walls, and it procs combustion, all that. So you can definitely want to look into abusing her E, as it's her highest damage on her kit. The animation can be a bit long. Use RMB right after, and it cancels the animation basically. So it's one of the things where I'll go into a Q, E, RMB usually. But if I really need to get damage out quickly, then I just go for a Q RMB, right? So it's a longer animation and it's nice, but the RMB is going to guarantee damage quickly compared to the E, and the E has a very far range. Maybe a little bit farther than it really shows. It feels, it takes time to actually hit with the E. It's a direct wave. It's not really like a Bellica Q, where if you still walk into it, after it's already reached its point, it knocks you up. It is an overall wave. I don't know if it's like a Bellica Q per se, but it takes time for it to really kind of reach the end of its lifespan. The RMB ability is AoE ability with a slightly bigger hitbox than it shows. Hitting enemy heroes increases healing by 4 times. More enemies equals more healing. So remember that. Very important when you're in a fight and you just honestly want to queue RMB and leave just to get some heals, or help your team out and then stay alive. So you want to you want to position yourself to maximize the Omnivamp healing. The healing scales off magic power. And the damage can be done through corners. I'm not sure if behind walls. I don't think there's a wall thin enough for it to really happen. I've had it where it's behind corners and stuff. So it's something to consider if you're trying to edge play. So the ult, it's a click on suppress and silence. Enemies can still cleanse out of it, but if they are still within range, they can take damage from it. You can be kicked out of your ult with a Drongo silence, stuns, etc. And sometimes it can be refunded to you. Sometimes I turn into what I like to call support number 2, where I use this to help peel my carry. If my carry is doing very well and is getting focused, I'll help my carry, whoever is focusing him, with this ult and proceed to burst them. So this ult is probably what I would say makes Countess as strong as she is. She's the only mid laner with a straight up click on ultimate that locks people in place just basically instantly, right? As a mid laner. So she's really good for ganks, really good for pressure. I'm hoping a lot of jungle people see this. Countess is a very easy person to help get ganks, to get kills with. So any jungle players, remember, gank Countesses, that helps them. Also gank Countesses that are on the enemy team, because they can also die very easily. So the early game strat, against a very aggressive enemy where they're pushing really hard and they're trying to punish you, I level up my E first and I get what I can without risking an early back. Staying on level, having XP is far more important than gold at this point. What I will do against highly aggro players is level up E, then look into a Q so I can secure cannon, which can help me position the lane to freeze while I last hit under tower. Then I should have enough for RMB to try and Q plus RMB to heal off enemies within their wave. I want as much AoE heals as I can get. Don't worry about the river buff. It's not essential, and making sure you don't blink early is extremely essential. You scale so hard into mid game, so just don't die. Focus on farm. Wording should be prioed behind you, so next to the three-way opening on your left. Not many people are really going to gank you from your right. It's very rare. So I always tend to see ganks that come from my left side of mid. And, you know, you do not want to burn your flash. You do want to play safe. You need to know jungle, where the jungle presence is going to be. Usually jungle, right, is going to start red, and they're going to go to river camp if they're that greedy, or they're going to go blue. If they take a river camp, it's going to suck because you do need mana. Luckily for you, though, you clear really fast early, and you have some pretty decent sustain to kind of keep you in, and you just kind of teleport back and walk in. You want to try to keep, you know, technically against the aggro mid laner, they're going to be punishing you a lot. Try to stay for XP because you just don't want to lose level advantage. That's like you're going to lose like 80 HP. One level is going to be like 80 to 100 HP. That is so important to you. That's that's like 3 basic attacks, 4 basic attacks. That's like I mean it's just too important. You know, do not lose level. That's going to help you get mana to farm. It's going to help you keep sustain. It's going to make you stronger. That, you know, everyone, for instance, this is for everybody, but Countess especially, right? Because she's going to have trouble in mid lane due to the pressure you get from mid laners being casters and ranged. So the aggressive passive lane, they're looking to trade you on farm, and that's okay as long as they aren't full on W keying you. I look into leveling up RMB, start to focus on matching farm and sustain. Still always try to freeze it on your lane really early until 3 skill. Level 3 skill. You need to be aware of jungler, and due to Countess's natural state, you should be warding behind yourself, and then look into more aggressive warding. If you're against a passive lane, just farm up, clear range minions, looking to poke damage, but respect the jungle roam. Always try to remember their position, and you know where your jungler is most likely where their jungler is going to be, just due to how the jungle works now. So I like to do, get into the enemy's head with a Q, E plus RMB combo, which should 1/3 their health after level 6. Be aware to look into jungle rotations. Always, that is the most important thing. Just don't feed. Once you kind of go in, you can't get out. Jungle is basically going to kill you, especially the popular jungles right now. Chimera, Fang, Zarus, Rampage. What am I missing? Heck, Grux. I mean, all these junglers literally have chase potential, and they dominate a Countess that doesn't have her Q. Even if they have their Qs, honestly. So yeah, low chance of ganking right, and it's usually the safer river buff to get as well. So I always try to prioritize my character position on the right, and you have a pretty easy time using your Q to secure river buff. I think everyone at level 1 river buff doesn't one-hit it, and Countess Q does one-hit it. So it's something to consider. So wave crashes around 1:22. Wards last about 84 seconds, and then +2 per level. River spawns in at 3 minutes. Wave should be cleared around 1:45. Getting a 2 camp board around 1:50-ish will provide enough time to see jungle rotations into river, to then bias what side you go on to. So aggressively rush for level 2, but with Countess, keep your HP high so you can sustain in lane for as long as you can. As long as you keep prio. You want to get that 1200. You want that potent staff. But don't die. Focus on the XP and try to get as much gold as you can. The first goal, in my opinion, is to try and get potent staff over Dusk Stave. I personally don't see Dusk Stave being important, but potent staff outputs so much damage, so doing whatever you can to save potent staff without limiting yourself from farm. Health pots scale on level. Try to save your health pots for at least level 2 or 3, where you are expecting more trades. So this is where it gets weird. Range minions are really good for pushing, so focusing them for farm when against the aggro mid might not be the best result. You do want the lane to freeze near you as melee mid early game. So sometimes with Countess, I won't prioritize the range minions because I want them to push, right? So I'll prio them. Oh my god, my monitor turned off. All right. There, 1 second. All right. So range minions, they help you push lane, so that can be good for you to not have them actually. You have to find a way. Even if you're gonna take damage, you can't really kite them as easy to freeze them in lane. If you can kite them and take a little bit of damage to guarantee that you're gonna have a frozen lane to be able to farm easier, then it's worth the trade, especially with the RMB being healing, to heal you. So river buff spawns at 3 minutes and every odd number of minutes after that. And then I always prio river buff on the right side mostly. Depends on if these are skills. By this point, mentally think about rewarding yourself. Is it better I save my mana to farm up? Or are they wasting so much mana that we'll have to be soon? Can I push my wave up quicker to get both river buffs? And it depends. A lot of people will get upset at me for not looking at rotating early game / mid game because the enemy's gonna clear way faster than me probably. But then you just have to call your pings. It's your teammates' fault for not listening to pings and continually going in when I'm pinging them. MIA, retreat, retreat, retreat. Careful, careful, right? It's not your fault. And then you can punish your mid laner. Hopefully they don't get a kill. Then you can punish your mid laner by clearing wave and now being ahead of your mid laner, right? You want to always look at, thinking what's going to reward yourself. You're going to be the carry, hopefully. So the mid game strat, this is where Countess ramps up, and this is where Countess is around level 6 and can be a major threat, no matter the build. If you see the enemy using skills to clear minions, you should look into trying to land a Q, E, RMB trade, because they're not going to have any skills to use on you if they're going to use it on the wave. You sometimes should look at delaying RMB to get maximum healing in case they do damage to you. So a lot of times, if I'm full HP, I'll go Q, E, and I'll wait a bit for my RMB. If I can maybe guide them to minions, if I could maybe take some HP, and then I'll RMB. Because if I'm full HP and I RMB, then I'm not going to benefit off the healing. But I want to try to punish them and then see if I could heal myself up for the punishment kind of thing. So your RMB does cancel E animation though. Like it helps cancel the full animation to where now you can attack faster, reset your character position, all that. You hopefully should have your blink available and not have used it early because your playstyle should be feast or famine. In a way, it's not necessarily, I say this because I would like to get ahead as a Countess, but you're going to scale so well, especially with your ultimate being a stun. Your ultimate, this is where I always say that you are support number 2 in a way. You can look into when it's not a hard like a 5v5, but someone's left out and your team is with you. It's nice to set up a click on ultimate, then have someone CC lock them basically after that. So you want to position yourself properly, and you aren't necessarily a feast or famine. A Countess is always active throughout the game as long as they're not 1 in 20, right? Gonna be aggro as you can be without knowing where the enemy jungler is. Of course, wards are important. I would look into moving my back left ward in the middle of the left fog wall, or if my left lane has a ward deep to cover an opening. So you always want to look at where your teammates are putting wards. Some junglers, they can't jump over walls and stuff, and they honestly probably aren't going to jump over walls. You can basically block out left and right jungle rotations or from the jungler by only using 2 wards on both sides. So if you see your off lane has a ward up where right next to 5 camp, then all you got to do is put one next to 2 camp. You're going to know the jungler is there no matter what, and that's going to help you either look if they're going to look invading your jungler or if they're going to look at punishing you, and then you can see them walk in and out, or it can also help bias where your position is. So you always want to pay attention to that, because as Countess, you want to farm and you're melee, and you're risking a lot going for farm, having basically no escape, all right, try to push 2 camp. I don't. Yeah. So your Q, E plus RMB combo is going to be key. Anytime you have combustion or mega up, you want to look at engaging on it and getting that damage out, And it is going to be tough to use it against Belka and Howie. Those people are going to be a little scary to you. Howie's fairly squishy, so you could punish him, but if it's a good Howie, he should be pressuring you instantly and really trying to freeze the lane on his side. Because the thing is, Countess is all AoE. So if you use an E, you're going to hit an entire wave. Howie is AoE with his basics, but doesn't output as much as damage E, or Countess E. So, you have to respect that you might actually push the wave towards Howie. He freezes it, and he can just E you in any situation. And if his jungler is there, you're a free kill. So you got to respect that, The rotations are so good for Countess because of your ultimate, due to being a lock-on stun. and basically you can be a support and you can get stun locks and all that stuff for it. So if you have a bad duo, don't waste your time. You need to farm yourself. So so XP, farm. Those are a key, and you should have a pretty good job being able to get that overall, even by playing safe, by using your skills correctly. At rotation engages, I usually do a Q ult or a Q RMB plus ult because I just want to get them stunned for my enemy team, to stun them, to get them there, to make it to I can get them to use a blink immediately after it. That's kind of just what it is, you know. I don't necessarily want to do a full combo unless I know I can really punish it, because I just want my team to get there. In case they flash, my team might be able to overextend past that flash and then punish them. You know, it's all about that type of stuff. And you know, you just want to get the passive stack. You want to get your team fed. You want to get yourself fed, and that's going to help out a lot. Where if you're just able to Q ult, that is enough. So the late game strat, take advantage of your burst potential and your E going through walls. You're going to be fighting for a lot of objectives here. Hopefully you can get some vision down. You want to use your E before the fights even start. You know, you need to be careful with any engage, and not just be careful of the enemy, but your team. If your team sees you Q in for a poke, they might think you're trying to engage, and then they'll dive in, you Q back, and now you made a mistake. And it's kind of the same issue I say with time flux. You got to be careful with time flux, because once again, you just want to go Q, E, right click, and get out just to have a quick reset or something, or reposition. Your team's not going to know that. They're probably not going to pay attention. They never see time flux. You don't know what elo they are. So, and with time flux, you kind of want to, you don't really want the full time on time flux. You can get CC'd pretty easily. So if you go, you can wait about 2 seconds, wait 1 second, and then look into an engage. That way it pulls you out, because you could get CC'd and take up a ton damage. So you want to be very careful about how you engage with time flux if you're going the time flux route. Otherwise, you go soul bearer, and you want to make sure you use your soul bearer before the fight really engages to prioritize your lifesteal, right? So at this point, it depends on your team and the enemy team. If the team is kind of dominating, but you have a good carry, I try to be the support number 2. I'll look into ulting and focusing who my carry is, and by that time, hopefully I can have my Q back and then engage on their carry. Another thing you can do is provide pressure to the enemy carry, to where if your team fights, you can force a 4v4 by just staring the carry down. If you can make someone scared just by your presence, they're not going to look at engaging the fight. Hopefully your team can do a 4v4, then you might try to find a way to get yourself involved, maybe do a 1v1 with that carry or whoever's pressuring him. The goal isn't sometimes you providing pressure is just as important as you fighting the person sometimes, right? In a situation where you can force a 4v4 by making sure their ADC now is peeled off, but you going in might get you killed, because then they'll switch focus. But you being there staring down the ADC, they're going to be scared, right? So sometimes you sitting there is you are technically 5v4ing them in a way, right? And then you might be able to get an E, you might be able to get some Q poke, then pressure the ADC. So you want to use your presence to be terrifying, because you're an assassin. They should be scared of you, So I don't usually try to play sneaky, because Countess has no true escape, just a gap closer and reposition. So I try to show myself. I'll try to play sneaking and wrap around if it's if I know who I'm against, and I know that they're very aggressive roaming, like they're peelers. So then I'll try to get behind and try to take out the carry or something. But in reality, I try to show myself. I try to be close to my ADC. I try to be close to the team, and then I try to pressure that way, so I can see what skills are going on. Because if I see that their CC is gone, now I'm free to throw out a ton of damage and then exit out and kind of reset, right? So yeah, she is all about positioning. You gotta, you can scare anyone just by showing your presence, especially if you're fed. I try to avoid a direct ult in team fights though, because of the cleanses. Your Q, E, R, and B combo should be solid, and Soul Bear or Time Flux should do a great job in sustaining you during your brief pauses. And like I said, the ultimate for peel probably is a better way to go, and try not to use it as an engage. Maybe use it after 2 seconds from the when the fight has started. That way they're not really focusing you, and you could hopefully kind of delay the enemy carry by getting ult. They use cleanse. They focus you back off. Now they're kind of pushed back. Your team's there. You have faster cooldowns. Now you can kind of, fight the team fight a little bit. All right, so some Countess tips and tricks. E goes through walls. Q to escape gadget, bomb time, activated skills, but it does not stop things like Mortgage ult. Don't let Countess' level of aggression ruin your positioning. She's very strong, but you are not an engager. This W key. She makes me want a W key. You got to respect that she, she is not tanky though. So you have to respect, when you're in your ultimate, you are very vulnerable still, right? So try not to be that engager. So now we're gonna go through the characters and like what I kind of suggest with the characters and all that stuff. So Bellica is difficulty is moderate and high. So pre-6, you want to focus on farm. She's gonna pressure you with the robot, with her Q, with her RMB, and you want to start E. You know, if she's aggro, go Q next so you can guarantee the cannon minion. What she should be trying to do is clear faster than you and then box you out continuously, or she can freeze you. I'm a W key player, so this is kind of what I see and how I see people doing, playing. When I play, a lot of people want to look into rotations. So they're not looking to freeze much when it comes to pubs. In pubs, they're looking to push it out and look for a rotation. Push it out, try to get a ward down, especially early game. They want to push it out, get a ward down so they can have prio and better position of where the jungler is going to be, right? So against pubs, you should be farming O lane with near zero engaging unless she has no Q. So if you don't see her have a Q, that's when you want to punish her. But you want to focus on just scaling up. Post 6, clear and look for rotations. Kill potential is slim until she misses Q. You can try to bait a Q, but if you know the jungler is not near you, bait out a Q if you know the jungler is not near you. Because if she gets a stun on you, and the jungler is there, you're basically pretty much dead. She's gonna output a good amount of damage to you. Jungler's gonna throw some damage to you. Kind of screwed up. All right, and then clear, completely decimate here. Even when they're drawn up, you should be able to cancel the damage off of a Countess passive. If you clear, you completely. All right. So your entire goal against a Bellica is to not get hit by the Q. Don't be low mana next to her for her ultimate. Dodging your Q with your Q is very difficult. So I would kind of prevent that, because if she Qs you and you Q onto her, there's a very slim chance of you dodging it. So I try to avoid any type of engage on queuing a Bellica. Bellica is a difficult matchup. In lower ELO though, I don't see much of an issue. They tend to be pretty passive, so it turns into a farm lane. In higher tier, they should be pressuring the hell out of a Countess though. So all right, so Gideon, I say this difficulty is moderate. So pre-6 should be pretty easy laning. He can basically attack you while farming, but Q can dodge his rock. Just don't get eaten by his passive when it comes to boxing. High elo Gideon will usually do this, but they will lose farm over this. I start RMB to eat some of the shots and heal off the minions. Then I look at leveling E to match his farm by doing an E plus RMB combo. Gideon should be power farming to 6, preventing you from farming if he is good. His entire goal is to beat you to 6 and all in you, and you can't really escape his you can't cancel his ultimate. So that's his entire goal. If he's able to peel you off of one farm and then prio you, you're now gonna have a level disadvantage. So you have to respect that, and you have to also respect when he is a higher level than you, because he should all in you just to waste your kit, So post 6, you should be poking the heck out of a Gideon with Q, E, and RMB combo and try to bait his ult. He might be forced to build Soul Bear and True Silver though, but be warned about Time Flux. If he builds that, he can instant re-engage. So those are the only two crests he's really going to choose from: Soul Bear and Time Flux. So you have to pay attention to that. And depending on your build, are you going to be very punishing to him? If you go the Mega Cosm route, you're going to have a little bit more of a passive lane. I mean, you're still going to do a ton of damage, but when you go the combustion route, you can really out damage him in a way. But you have to be careful. You're going to do a trade-off of having more farm potential or clear potential to having more damage potential on a single target. So you mainly do want to look into stopping his ultimate if he does ult with your ult though. So Q ult when he's in the air, and you should get him out of there. So the Countess Q removes the pull on Gideon's ult, and Countess Q can dodge all his abilities. So when you time it well, you should be pretty solid. So against Faye, now this is interesting because it's mainly high yellow. You can get punished, and it could be actually a very difficult matchup against smart players. But honestly, overall, easy moderate until you get into really high level play. Pre-6, she can have poke advantage on you, but she should be easy to eat up early. Just don't get beat up level 1 trying to farm. So don't let her basic you take so much hit and then she chases you down with her E combo. If she starts E combo, because then she's gonna punish you, force you back, and now she's honestly gonna win lane off of that until level 6. Her farm is pretty slow early, so it's easy to match up to it. It's all about positioning against her. Post 6 should be aggro into her, but position yourself to prevent her landing a Q and E, so you use corners and edges of mid, bait her in, and wait for a skill. Take advantage of the E through walls and climbing up ledges. Her ultimate is pretty easy to escape. You can Q out of her ultimate if it's far enough from the radius. Otherwise, you'll get pulled out. So you want to kind of respect how you go in, and you want to engage from far away, you know. But if the Fae is smart, she'll run into your shadow to try and get an ult off of you, right? And then you can't dodge it with your Q, and then she gets to basically get it. She can kill you off of that, you know. You're tanky-er, but she still outputs a ton of damage, especially once she gets, if she has Wraith leggings, you know, that's of concern. But you know, it's all about timing with her, trying to dodge her ultimate, but she's very predictable. You kind of know what Faye is going to do. If you're half HP, you shouldn't be looking at engaging anywhere near a Faye. You know, unless she's half HP, then you could look into killing her. Because your full kit combo, if you do a Q, E, R&B ult, is faster than her ultimate. So if you can at least beat that, and she's half HP, and you have Wraith leggings to guarantee the damage output, then I would say, you know, you're pretty solid, and that's when you would punish a Faye. But half HP, you should be warned on Faye. So Gadget is an easy and moderate lane. Now, most gadgets are fairly passive, so it's going to be a farm lane level 1 to 6. If she hits a lot of Qs on you and knows how to pressure you and get an E on you, she can actually be pretty traumatizing, hence why I labeled her as a chance of being moderate. So her passive shield makes it hard to really assassinate her, right? So every like 13 or 18 seconds, she'll have her passive shield, so she's going to do less damage on your combo, or you're going to do less damage to her with your combo. So I like the prio farming because she's not really going to do too much. It's really going to punish you. So I use all my skills, try to farm up. She's going to scale really hard. You hopefully can scale really hard. You know, that's kind of what it is. Your Q can dodge her hats that she puts on you. You just got to time it right. And she moves away from minions and Q to make her clear slower. Her root can stun you after a Q as well. Although it is a tad difficult to land, it takes time for it to set up. Just don't make it obvious if you want to engage onto her. So it is. I find it's difficult for gadgets to land the E's on me or the root on me when I do Q into her, because gadget E is actually further up ahead than where the crosshair is when it gets really close to your body. Alright, so post 6, she does zoning and AoE damage. Your ult keeps you still, so you gotta be careful about that. It gives you a free lets her get an R&B on you, gets a Q on you, gets some ult damage on you. And you don't want to get rooted by her, because you can get melted pretty easily. So you want to be careful of that. You don't really want to engage on the gadget. Gadget's not your prio, it's not your target. You can try and peel her off, but she's going to be dot damage, so you want to look into kind of ignoring her when it comes to late game, right? And try to focus on the targets. Gadgets, I haven't really had too much issue with them, but it tends to be a farm lane, basically. And you should push faster than them after 6 when you get Mega Cosm or if you get Combustion. So Howitzer difficulty is hard. He punishes you. If it's aggro Howie, low elo, you honestly can still be fine, but he dominates you throughout the game. Pre-6, E, start, max Q next depending on the level of aggression. He can E you to displace you, then run you down. I don't know why it says don't. Then he can run you down, so you just want to farm up. Going R&B puts you in punishment zone. If Howie doesn't get fed, he kind of falls off a bit since he is pretty easy to kill late game. And he's very single target based. If he doesn't have ultimate, is very punishable. So you want to be careful about that. You know, don't let him get fed early. Ult when you see a rocket start to come out. Wait, so what's this one? Always start to see a rocket start to come out. His ultimate. Oh, so this is on the ultimate. Sorry. So when you see him ulting, you can Q and ult him to cancel his ult. But you want to be careful because his ultimate can reset. So you don't want to ult him too early because for some reason the devs think it's a really good, solid idea to have his ult reset after canceling it. But you want to be careful. You need to see the rocket. You need to see him in the air, in the air a good amount, not just a little bit. In the air a good amount, almost to the top to where he's going to shoot rocket. Q, ult, and then Q back, and then you kind of cancel his ultimate. But you want to be careful for him. He's going to have the range advantage, he's going to have the poke advantage, he's going to slow and reposition advantage. You got to be careful about that. So post 6, it doesn't. So with a jungler, he's an easy kill without E, but he can easily set you back by making your HP low just by simply ulting you for fun. So that is when I play a howitzer, I will literally, if I have the advantage, if I see my Countess push up the wave, I will literally just ult just to put her at half HP. She's not really gonna escape. She's gonna go, what the hell is all how are you doing to me? And she's gonna run back, maybe throw a Q to a minion very close to her, and I should still hit her with all my ult. Then I might be able to either kill her or I'll punish her so hard now she has to back. And now I win lane just off of simply putting pressure on her. And then I can look into rotating into another lane or whatever. So so on against a Howie though, if you have jungle pressure, like if your teammate jungle wants to gank him, you could get a very easy kill with your ultimate. He's very squishy, but it's tough. You want to think of the solo, just you and him. So Morgish, this lane can be difficult early, but you will outdamage her late. So it's a moderate or hard lane. So pre-6, focus on your farm. You should counter her RMB with your RMB early game if she doesn't use Q. You just kind of want to sit back and try to Q farm. It's hard with her because when you use your E, it will damage the whole wave and she can kind of control the wave management. So while you're farming with an E start, you're basically going to hit every minion. So she can easily look into freezing lane for herself. And she outputs a ton of damage. She's very her risk on you is very low. So you kind of just want to focus on farm and try to eat up what you can. Post 6, she can out damage you into a straight 1v1. But if she doesn't have her Q up, so if you see her use her Q on wave, I would look at making a trade. Q, E, RMB, basic, escape. It's like a 12-second cooldown. And by the time you get to her, it'll probably be 9 seconds. Maybe 6 seconds, but allow you to do your full combo and then escape pretty easily. And you do want to watch out if she uses her E, because then she'll heal off of you, but you should still get a solid trade. So after 3 items, you can absolutely, after 3 items is when you start actually doing crazy DPS to her and when you can actually punish her. So play it safe in terms of that, and gank potential on Morgish is super. If your jungler is there, it should be very easy ganks to kill Morgish, but she's gonna beat you until you get about 3 items. All right, so Wraith, this difficulty is easy and moderate, mainly because a lot of people don't know how to play Wraith correctly. So the matchup depends on how good that Wraith is, since most Wraiths suck, and that is true. He can have easy poke advantage on you pre-6. Due to him being physical power, but RMB start allows you to kind of heal off a bit of it when you go in and try to farm. He's probably going to start, he should start Q, so that way he can get he can match up on farm and basically be able to push and all that. But he can also go RMB, to try and just poke you to get Crests up, Crest stacks up and all that. So level 2, go for Q if you want to punish him, or E for possibly ruining his clear. So post 6, you should be happily go aggro on him. He's a carry and his ult takes too long to really punish you. Just try to dodge his abilities the best that you can. If an RMB was used and it missed or didn't get reset, you should 100% look into punishing him, because RMB is a long cooldown early game. Just be warned, because he's attack damage, he can punish you just by chasing you down and basically attacking you. So against Iggy and Scorch, the difficulty is moderate. Iggy's turrets are kind of meh. Be careful. Well, we'll see with the next patch coming up. But be careful for his oil and RMB spam. Since you're going to be melee, it's going to be pretty easy for him to hit. The RMB is going to do a ton of damage. Yep, you're canceling out. You want to use your RMB to kind of cancel out that damage early game. His chase potential isn't really going to be there, so you should be able to kind of sit in there, use his RMB. If he wants to get his slack on you, he's going to probably miss out on farm. A lot of people that play and try to counter the Countess, they tend to lose because they miss out on farm trying to poke the Countess the entire game. Trust me, I've seen it. It happens to me sometimes. And Iggy is a little bit tankier than usual, so bursting him is going to be a little difficult. So pre-6, farm focus. The turrets can be free gold with the Q and E, so position yourself to also be able to hit the turrets. Respect his spam, but it should be pretty easy to farm against him. Post 6's ult shouldn't really be able to knock you back because of your Q engage. It should be far enough after a combo, just stay away from him. He will just poke you with E and R&B. Watch your positioning and focus mostly on the carries or whoever is in general. Yeah, he's not your main target when it comes to the fight. But if you need to, so you can be support number 2, and if he's focusing your ADC, then you just ult him. Your ADC should be able to absolutely melt him in 2 seconds. All right, so against a mirror, because people will mirror, Tainted is a solid option. They're gonna get true damage now, so it's gonna be even more interesting with the new patch. Especially if she's getting fed and assists, because you want to cancel her heals out. So this is where I would look into adding Tainted third item instead. So on both of the builds, I look at Tainted third item. That's probably when she'll start scaling pretty well. But in general, you have to do more damage to her. In any mirror matchup, how do you win them? By literally doing more damage. Dodge their E, hit your E. Use their thing, try to guarantee damage on them. Sometimes that's why I go like a Q first, because if I use a Q, I can try and dodge their E if they start E, and the Q is going to do good damage, and it allows me to kind of reposition myself. But at the same time, RMB start for when you're in lane, and then you want to use your RMB first. Sit back, wait for cooldown, go back and RMB. You just want to go off cooldown to get as much damage as you can before he can get the damage on you. It's going to be the same, most likely the same builds, especially early game. You just want to look into getting the more damage on him. It's that's all you can really say when it comes to a mirror matchup. So the matchup conclusions: farm is prio, like all mids, but you scale so hard, and roaming to stack your passive is key. Countess should force you to play safer in all matchups, but you scale very well even if you are support number 2. When jungle ganks you, it is fine to Q and then immediately ult, especially if your jungler has a stun, hook, etc. You have one of the best gank potentials in the mid lane. Position respectively in case of blink, and it should be a pretty easy combo. Take advantage of mid height difference. Hide behind and use E on minions or on the enemy. So in mid lane, the elevation stuff, you can E and your E will go above them. So you have to make sure that your E travels the terrain's ground. So you can punish people like that, unlike Shin BQ, for example. But keep note of these. River buffs are important, but don't waste time, blink, or any risk for them early game. Pay attention to your CDs as well as the enemies. If they use skills first, look into engaging or poking them. Test out if they are aggressive to better know how to deal with them. Pay attention when they come to farm. That includes if they use skills, how they're positioning themselves. Are they getting, and try to get some E-poke. Maybe a nice Q and R&B combo if they're, wasting a lot of if they're not positioning themselves properly. Pay attention to jungle rotations. With most junglers starting red, wherever your jungle is, they will probably be on the opposite side. If your jungler is red, they'll be red. If they're blue, you'll be, you want to pay attention to that. Most likely, it's not guaranteed, but it's just how the meta is shifted towards now. All right, and that's the end of the Countess guide. So let me know what you guys think. It's probably going to be a pretty long video, but let me know what you guys think. Have any questions? I can only add so much, as every single game is a different, is a different story. You can't. You can only do so much in terms of trying to make these guides, but it is situational. Who's feeding on your team? What's feeding on their team? How would I do this? How would I do that? What item should I build? Well, this is general and what I would suggest. One quick thing, though, is going onto Omega City. You can take a look at some of the heroes. If I type Countess right here, on here, if you go here and you click on Countess, you can click on builds here and be able to see win rates on whatever version, whatever elo. I would suggest diamond overall, and then whatever lane, and add the filter in and see what slots are getting them the most wins. This isn't guaranteed that you're going to win, but pay attention to the total matches played, not necessarily this guy's 33. Look at 169 matches, 224 matches. Wow, only 1% difference, but this has over 60 more games. Maybe that's the go-to now. It's focus on situations like that in terms of how to build, and you can use the Meta City as a great tool to see the stats, builds, counters. Here you go. These are the strongest against Countess. These are the weakest against Countess, and so on. Which is very surprising, honestly. I'm seeing a Chimera being the weakest. But that's it. So let me know what you guys think. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.